Today we are going to start with another subtopic of the second chapter, that is size and growth of India's population. So India is the second most populous country in the world after China. So India has the second largest population in the world, and the first highest population is that of China. According to the 2011 census, which is the latest census, the next census will be taking place in 2021. India has a total population of 121 crores. Next point, the annual growth rate of population in India between 1901 to 1951 did not exceed 1.33%. So the annual growth rate, the yearly growth rate of population in India did not exceed 1.33% between the years 1901 to 1951. So between the year 1911 to 1921, there was a negative growth rate of population of 0.03%. So this means that between the year 1911 to 1921, the population did not increase at all. Instead, there was a decline in population that of 0.03% instead of any increase. So the reason for that was because of the influenza epidemic between 1918 to 1919, which killed about 5% of India's population. So between the years 1918 and 1919, there was a major influenza, that had affected the world. It was a global phenomena, like a pandemic, and that killed about 5% of India's population. And globally, it may have killed about 500 million people, about one third of the world's population. And this influenza, it was like a viral disease, and it caused respiratory problem, fever, body ache, and many sorts of discomfort and diseases in the body of an individual, and thus it killed many people. It was caused by a virus called H1N1 virus. So because of this, the population of the country did not grow, instead it decreased. The growth rate of population began increasing after independence between 1961 to 1981 with 2.2%. So it was after independence when the population increased by 2.2% between the years 1961 to 1981. So death rate in India began to decline after 1921 as control over famine and epidemics increased. So famine means scarcity of food, and epidemic it means like viral diseases that affect a country or affects the nation. So death rate it began to decline after 1921 as the people in authority or the state began to take control or take some measures to avoid or to discard famine and epidemics. Hence, death rate declined. Spanish flu, a global influenza pandemic, the name of the epidemic in the year 1918 to 1919 killed about 5% of the country's population, as mentioned earlier. That influenza, which affected the entire nation between the years 1918 to 1919, was named Spanish flu. A pandemic is an epidemic that affects a very wide range of geographical area. Like how right now we are facing a global crisis. COVID-19, it's a pandemic. Similarly, pandemic, how you define it? It is an epidemic. It is a disease, viral disease that affects a very wide range of geographical area. Okay? So, improvement in healthcare, mass vaccination, improved sanitation helped control epidemics. So, as I told you, epidemics, famines began to be controlled. So, epidemics were controlled by improving healthcare facilities. So, earlier, like maybe proper healthcare facilities were not available to people. That's why there was a lot of death during the 1918 to 1919 epidemic. So now there is better healthcare and there is mass vaccination. There are vaccines being invented for various diseases, like you get vaccine for chickenpox, you can get vaccine for you get hepatitis vaccine when you're very young to avoid you from getting sick. So similarly, there are many vaccines to control epidemics, and people started to maintain personal hygiene and keep their surroundings clean. So epidemics were controlled to a certain extent. Diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, diarrhea, dysentery are some of the reasons for the death of people. So people still die because of such common diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, diarrhea, dysentery, etc. Okay. So in the year 1994, Surat witnessed a minor epidemic in the year 1994. So it was in the year 1994 when Surat, it was hit by an epidemic. So it was like a pneumonia plague, okay, that had hit Surat, and it killed a number of people. Dengue and chikungunya occurs in many parts of the country. So you still hear people dying because of dengue, right? So what causes famines? Like I told you, famines means scarcity of food, extreme scarcity of food that kills people. So it is caused due to high levels of poverty and malnutrition. People are extremely poor. The poor gets poorer, the rich gets richer. That is what happens in our country. So the the people who are poor are extremely poor. Sometimes they cannot get to eat one meal a day, and they have to struggle to get 3 square meals a day and to support their family. Sometimes they go without eating, sometimes one meal a day, sometimes no food. So that causes malnutrition. Malnutrition means lacking nutrition to sustain oneself, not having proper food. Okay, so this causes diseases when there is scarcity of food. Lack of adequate means of transport and communication. Some people may not have even the basic means of transport and communication to sustain their life, hence they die. And then inadequate efforts of the state government for public welfare. So the government may not be taking proper measures or launching programs to take care of the people who are suffering from famines. So that's why famines are caused. Yeah, okay.